here we go. What is up, TYR WZA family? We are here with another awesome episode to celebrate fitness, community, and life with the one and only. He is the CEO of HWPO, former president of Loud and Life Sports, director, former director of TYR WZA. I mean, the accolades go on and on and on. But here we are with the one and only Matt O'Keefe, or should we say Chief O'Keefe? What is up, bro?
Man, it's so good to be with you. And you've always been a great hype man for me. So I just need to spend more time around you. I feel good about myself. Thank you.
Oh,
It's
we're
awesome
just
to
getting
be here
started.
talking about Tier Wadapalooza. Getting excited to be there in a few weeks. Getting all the feels about what this time of year used to be like, which I'm sure we can talk about. But yeah, just excited to maybe tell some stories, be back, catching up with you and celebrate this amazing event.
Let's go, man. And the last time that you were on a Tier Waterpalooza podcast, you were running the podcast. Do you remember who your last guest was? It's been
Oof.
a while.
Maybe it was Matt and Pat. I mean, I
Was it?
don't know. I don't
I
know.
remember you
It
did
that's a
like a three-person, three athlete like podcast. I think it was maybe Matt. I don't know. Was it Vellner?
Pat,
And there might have
Pat
been
and
one
Matt.
more. Was it just them two?
Yeah. I think so. I remember it was in one of the conference rooms at Loud
Yeah.
Labs office. I remember, what's interesting is Wa- Wadapalooza needs this. There's so many great stories that need to be told that, I mean, the behind the scenes stuff is fascinating. You experienced it more than I did. You created it, right? So this stuff's, I think, important. And we ran out to kind of do that. Like, hey, the people, like, let's bring some people in, tell stories, talk about them and then their relation to this. But you know what it's like to run that event. And I think we got a little over our skis real quick. So this
Mm.
thing didn't die, but it went to pasture. So I'm glad it's back.
Yeah, man. No, it's awesome. It's great. It's how the conversation started with with Dylan a couple months ago. I was like, "Hey, you know that thing you guys were doing a long time ago, that podcast that O'Keefe was running." I was like, "What's going on? Let's bring it back." And so, without
Oh,
hesitation, it was already kind of happening behind the scenes with Wex and them. We're having the conversation. So I'm glad, and you were at the top of the list to get on here. So we're grateful, man. Look,
honored.
I'm guessing that 99% of the people listening in know who you are and what you're about. I'd just like to share at least my view of you just to start. Not so much as a person, because I love you as a person, respect you as a father and a husband, entrepreneur, but um, just as like a pioneer and a trailblazer in this industry that we call CrossFit, functional fitness, what have you. This was a new sport, still is a new sport. And I remember, first kind of stumbling across your name when you started representing some athletes. And I'll never forget, like I can literally look outside my window right now and see that I was sitting in a car and I was having a conversation with you. And I just felt like what you were doing was so important and so needed in the sport. As a former, CrossFit Games athlete myself, which I had maybe one sponsor that just gave me free gear. And I think I had a second one that paid me a little bit of money, but nothing near what's happening right now. And part of it was because A, the sport was new. B, I wasn't really that great. I made it once. And then C, I didn't have representation like you, right? And like what's
Hmm.
happening right now. And I just felt like, man, this is so needed. And as at the same time, I was trying to build, a competition that really elevated the sport from a professionalized standpoint and pay more. I really enjoyed engaging in conversation with you because you had the best interest of the athlete. And I was like, oh, this needs to happen. I can play this role. He's playing that role. Rising tides lift all boats. This is good. And so I don't know, what people know of you out there, whether it be more HWPO, whether it be more, Tier Wadapalooza or Redline back in the day, right? Is that what it was? But I think
Totally.
just like
Yeah.
what you've done, you've really you're leaving your footprints, your fingerprints, excuse me, on this industry, elevating it for everyone, and just what you've done to help professionalize the sport, man. I just want to honor you for that. Thank you, and just want to highlight that.
Thank you very much. I got to say the same goes for you. And, in a lot of ways, we were both kind of, doing similar things, which was about people for both of us. I know that. And if people don't know that about you, anything you do, you can kind of put that common link together. It's about people for you. It is me. you
Right.
know, and it isn't, I think Wadapalooza is this, incredible movement that you started, created, and facilitated, and business in sport has a piece of that too. And it's, I don't think either of us went into it thinking about more than helping people be better, get platforms to, express either their fitness or themselves. Um, and I just learned a lot in that process from people doing same things at the same time, and we were in just a great space that had a lot of green space at the time.
Yeah.
And I believe that there were a lot of the right people in the right place at the right time, including yourself, that were really doing it for the right reasons. Like, we didn't really think about business first, honestly.
100%. Yeah.
Never. And I mean, I think people can, at times have been probably critical of both of us because of that. But I think that that's where, things like Wadapalooza get where they're at. And, people that we care for, like I did, athletes get, to places that they've gotten, is because it was about them, not us. I love sitting where I do in the space. And, I'm certainly aware that people know a lot of what I do, but, that's not the why behind it. It's like, Matt winning 5 championships was a big why. And
Yep.
every other athlete I dealt with getting paid properly and compensated, like, what you're talking about. I arrived on the scene and realized that symptom you described was, across the board. A lot of people doing a lot of things for businesses and weren't really getting recognized or compensated for it. I just feel really fortunate that, you know, um, and I know I've like cut space and, and developed my craft and done well with that. But, I was also in the right place at the right time with a lot of cool people. I mean, we just, a lot of times now today, and especially as spaces develop, you look at what isn't, or like, toxicity, or like, people are micro complaining about things at times. But, in the grand scheme of things, what's been built here is incredible. Whether it's Wadapalooza, the CrossFit space in general, the business side, it's this, incredible platform.
Yeah.
And I think that has just a lot to do with like all the components. It's, the Hennigers and the athletes, and everybody had just a great growth mindset at the time. And we're willing to do things that were uncomfortable, and think differently, and trust people when they probably didn't deserve it at the time. And, here
Yeah.
we are,
Yeah. I think people do, those who are kind of nitpicking and complaining, which there's always room for improvement in any space, in any industry, but forget how quickly this has all grown, and come to
Oh,
be.
yeah,
It's so new. I mean, every other sport that's out there that's successful is it's been around for a while, right? And so, you're seeing new sports coming about and maybe being televised, but who knows if those are going to last? The pickleballs of the world and whatnot. It's like,
right.
that really going to last the test of time? Where I really feel pretty confident that CrossFit is going to last the test of time. Functional fitness, you know, competitions, whatever you want to call it, whether it be under the brand name of CrossFit, but this style, this sport is going to be around forever. So at least that's my belief. But um,
Well, because of people like you and others that are in this space that aren't going to let it not be right. And that's it. Like, to point, not to highlight negativity. I only point that out to say, like, that's actually a positive too in a lot of ways, because when people are that passionate, there's something there in the secret sauce that helps it exist and grow. That they're that passionate to express, micro things that they want to see differently. So
yeah,
it's yeah, it is fascinating. It's a great case study. And yeah, there's a lot of work to still be done. Don't get me wrong, we're still in the massive
yeah,
building phase in this space, but I would agree with you that this thing's here to stay, and we just got to mold it forward.
it's such a unique sport. I just want to, I guess, dive a little deeper into that because you mentioned something that kind of triggered it. Was like the sport is unique in that the professionals and the amateurs compete in the same event. Like, when does
Very
that
unique.
ever happen? And like, some people complain that, well, it's not as meaningful to the pros anymore because they can just like do the test at 80% and pass, and some people don't like that. But hold on a second, do you get to go to the combine with the NFL athletes that
Right.
like, do you get,
Yeah.
like, just the fact that they even have to participate is still cool. So little things like that, I just and the fact that the sport is actually an iteration of the way we train, right? Like, who can say that? Like, there isn't like an F45 like games where like people actually like
Totally.
want to 20,000 people want to show up to watch, right? Like that's not happening. So yeah, man, I'm a big believer in it. I think you said as long as people like me and you are around, but I also think like as long as people have like this competitive drive, which is part of the fabric of what a CrossFitter is like they're competitive against themselves, and then even more so when someone's lining up next to them, and that there's so many different skills that need to be learned from weightlifting to gymnastics to how far can they push their engine, like all of those things is like you're going to always continue to see that opportunity for growth. It's kind of like golf. I know you're a big golf fan. Is like you can always get
Mm,
better at your golf game and you could do it for the rest of
absolutely.
your life. And so golf's not going anywhere for those reasons, so
I
that's kind
think
of how I
that
view
that's a
fitness.
part of it, by the way, is it's accessible is exactly what you're describing. Others aren't. There's inspiration and aspiration. Not to get too technical with it, but those elites, the best in the world, inspire, and they do on every platform. Basketball players, baseball players. There is a limit on relatability there because it's just so incredible. It's like how
Right.
can I hit a golf ball like Tiger Woods? I can't and never will be on a consistent basis. You may be able to hit one shot and you're like, wow. Um, but there's it's very aspirational because it's easy to access. Golf's not very accessible. Even though you can go to a range, there's all kinds of levels to it, but it's one of the few cases of where the sport's very easy to play, and it's accessible and you can do it forever. There's a way to scale it, and
Yeah.
that we obviously have to work hard to strengthen in that message because I think there is that the forward facing product is so intimidating at times. And I think that's like the next hurdle is, really, and what we're trying to do at HWPO is just like create more of a lower barrier of entry so people, can really, understand it, experience it, and think that they can do it.
Yeah.
But
I'm
yeah, it's,
curious to know a little more about that, right? Let's take a little bit of a zoom out and then we'll zoom back in. But in terms of like, we talked a little bit about the impact that you have made and are making just in the space. Like, what does life now look like for you personally, professionally, 2023? Where you're with HWPO. Can you give us a little bit of insight on that?
yeah, yeah. Thanks for asking. It's been an amazing couple of years. It's been a wild couple of years. I worked my last Wadapalooza in January of 22. And it was, it was the right time for me at that point. And, I gotta say, like, I've never learned more than I did in those 5 years about people, relationships, business. It's really set me and our team up for success. We even have some people from the former team with our HOPO team. There's tons of crossover. We're just a big family, and obviously tons of people still there that I adore. Some of my best friends in the world. Um, but yeah, I transitioned in 22. We launched an app in March of 22, which, wow, like anybody out there in the tech world will understand the sigh. It was crazy, and our developers were in the Ukraine. The bombs started dropping the day we launched our app. It was just a wild experience, and and again, I've learned so much in the last 2 years, and we just have gotten really grounded in some things that are really important to Matt, honestly, and myself, and all of us too, for that matter. But Matt's pure vision was, I want to start something that helps people, which sounds audacious, right?
Mhm.
But that's his experience with fitness. Is not only did he win 5 world championships, which was what everybody saw, the undertold piece, which he's tried really hard to tell, is it changed his mom, his dad, his brother, his best friend's life. His best friend
Mm.
next door growing up lost 100 pounds, and he would come over and train in Matt's basement for an hour a
Wow.
day. Matt would give him some things to go do. And so, it really defined our purpose forward, which was, yeah, we do want to be, working with the tip of the spear in our sport that we love and we spend so much time daily paying attention to and contributing to. But we really want to start to, figure out ways to introduce more people to the way we do things, and what we talk about democratizing HWPO is, creating a more welcoming access point, in more access in general, more places they can do that, things our way. And do we have the answer for everybody? Absolutely not. Anybody that does what we do that says that is fooling you. It's but we have a really cool mentality and culture that I think is really attractive to a certain group of people. And we're working just really hard for people to understand that it isn't necessarily all of how Matt trained. It's definitely his mentality intertwined with how we present products. But we have GPP products now that are, by the way, introducing people into, a funnel to learn how to CrossFit,
Right.
really, and then come up and do more things in gyms and affiliates. We don't think we're the only solution. I'd love people to learn from us and end up at peak, like that's really important. More people CrossFitting, the better this world is, and the better our system is. It doesn't matter who does it and how they get in. That's where we want to be, and that's what we're working really hard to do.
Yeah. You better be working hard. It's part of your brand.
I mean, we are. It's
Sure.
so funny. You asked me before we hopped on about my time. And for people who don't know, I live in Boston, and my job was in Miami. And man, I look back at it and be like, wow, how did I do that? Because I was on a weekly basis commuting Tuesday to Thursday to Miami. And but in it, it was, I mean, there was nothing more right, like, at the time. I mean, I never thought a second about any of the travel I was doing. And then COVID came, and it was kind of like, wow, like I
Yeah.
am moving too fast.
Rude
It's still
awakening.
intense. It's still intense, but it's the same analogy. It's just I don't, I said this when I went to Wazza. It's like this is where I was supposed to be at this time. And really when I went into Waza, I was like, I don't really see anything else. Like this is what I've been working towards. Like
Yeah.
I love this event. I love the people. I love this space, and it's a bigger platform to talk to more people about what we do and how we do it. And then, now I'm here and it's the same. It's just, the evolution's perfect. Like I don't me getting to work with Matt on a day-to-day basis, which is something I did on his career, but now on business, Sammy and the rest of our team. It's just and there's definitely some. I miss. We talked about that. I miss Dylan. I miss Stacy. I miss those people we work with on a day-to-day basis for sure. And they taught me so much. But this, for me, this was really where I was meant to be. Doing what helping more people because I want to, and doing it with people that I've been aligned with for so long. So it's just a really cool opportunity for me.
That's cool, man. I'm really glad to hear that. I think it's interesting, right? When we're on a specific path, we're not really always sure what it's leading towards. Is it going to be forever? Is it going to be a period of time? And it sounds like, from what I'm hearing, is like those 5 years were some of the most amazing years of your life, where you learned, you laughed, you worked your butt off, you traveled more miles than most in that amount of time, but that it was a path that was leading you to where you're currently at right now. And so that's really cool. And I'm curious too, just like because I know a little bit more about what you did when you were with Loud and Live in Tijuana. I'm curious what your role looks like with HWPO, right? Like if you can give us
Yep.
the high level day to day between you and Matt, like what is it that Matt does? Is it more coaching? What are you doing? Is it more, you know, looking at all the different variables? Yeah, tell us a little more about that.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you. Yeah, it's very much an analogy to my role at Loud and Live Sports. From it's operating the business, and there's a lot of things that aren't sexy in that on a day-to-day basis, but they're fun because they help us, fund growth, and and support our team. But yeah, I'm on the business side day to day, involved in everything, partnerships and operations and products and coaching, just from a vision perspective. And and Matt too. We kind of run alongside each other. Like he's very engaged in visualizing, what comes to life through our products and what comes to life through our coaching and our elite athletes that he helps coach on these things. So he's touching all of that on a day-to-day basis. And he's our marketing face. So this, seems easy, but we pump out a lot of content, which is very reliant on him. So he's a busy man. So yeah, we divide and conquer a bit there. And but again, very similar there, just a different venue. It's just, helping my team, leading them, inspiring them, keeping them on track, and thinking about what the future looks like, which, none of us have a crystal ball, and we have tons of data we can use to hopefully help us, guide us through that. Um, but same as we're doing there is I'm literally taking what somebody else really thought out and established and visualized, and helping bring it to life on a day-to-day basis. You did that with Waza, and my role in that was um, you know, to really care for that properly for what you established and, bring some maybe fresh ideas to it and hope it, can really realize what you always visualized it to look like,
Yeah.
it's the same here. We had, like, this, you did it there, and we can speak of this way with the team there is just have such incredible people around us, that are so bought into the Waza culture, to our HWPO culture, which is where the magic is. You people that are willing to. We were talking before we hopped on this about holidays, like, people don't see that part of, the team of people that are day to day with Waza. They haven't had a Christmas in 12 years,
Yeah.
and they haven't had a New Year's in certainly a New Year's in 12 years. You're licking your wounds, getting ready to go there. But that's where all the magic is. You and I, in a lot of ways, got to really sit in a great seat to be clear about what this thing should look like and where we want it to go. We had such great execution partners, our teams.
Yeah.
That's that's why it's so comfortable for me here is, I got to be a part of something very similar there that you guys, all started, and I was able to, come in and be a part of and learn. It's the same here. It's just that same hard work culture that was there. It is here. The same dedications here as it was there. So it's made my role really comfortable and confident, because I've
Yeah.
been through it and I've learned a lot in the process.
Amen, brother. And I think, what it sounds like is you miss Miami a lot.
I, do- it's I really do. It's
Tell us what you, so obviously, like, we know that the people that we're surrounded by are what really we miss the most, essentially. And is what makes it happen. Like, it's, sometimes we get to be kind of the front runners or the face and whatnot, but at the end of the day, it's completely impossible, not just with people who do the work, but more importantly, people who share the same vision, share the passion, share the values, and are just like, they're all in. And that's what we have at Tier Palooza. That's what you have at HWPO. But besides the people and the team, what are some things that maybe, I don't know, that you miss and maybe that you don't miss about, your time, not your time at Waterpalooza, but just coming down here to Miami more often than you used to.
I mean, the only thing, that I don't miss is and it's not because I don't like going there. It's just being away from my family.
Yeah.
So that part was, is the easy one. There really isn't anything else um, that I could put in that category. What I really miss is the people, right? And the culture, not only just inside the walls of the team, at Loud and Live and Wadapalooza, but the culture of Miami. Like, it's such a stark contrast to Boston, in so many ways. Man, I miss the weather. Like, let's be real, for sure. I
Oh,
mean, especially
down
right
here
now,
in
it's
tank top, baby.
25 degrees today here, but yeah, it's Miami's alive. Like, there's no way to better describe that place from my perspective. It's just, it's just such a passionate. What's that?
72 degrees right
Oh god.
now.
Don't wave that. I'm
We're up
coming soon.
there a
But
little bit.
that's the Miami culture is amazing. I grew to love it, and
I was hoping you would say that. You'd miss some of the cafecitos we'd have,
I
and
do. I mean, such a caffeine
some
freak, man.
very
What a
energetic,
spot.
vibrant town.
I mean, just I don't know. I get the feel like last year was my first time back, and I just remember driving into downtown and just getting good vibes and just great memories. Like, even in the hard times, it was, because we were working towards something special, and it was necessary at the time. I miss it all. I really do. Dylan and I were texting yesterday a little bit about it. It's just, and honestly, like, the role he played and I played, there was, often a lot of not, friction's so aggressive. It's just like, I need his opinion, he needs my opinion. You got to make a quick decision, right? And that often can, not, almost leave a mark at times. It's just like, hey, we're moving fast here. Do this. Why? Because I want you to, and the same to him to me. And as we got a chance to step back the last couple of years, it's just, he's such an incredible human being, and that as
Yeah.
much, if not more than I do. I missed that. I miss those, like, 4 a.m.s, 3 days before event, trying to figure out how on earth we're going to get this done because it's rained 3 days in a row. It's just like all of it. I
It's
don't.
a
I-
unique
It
experience.
is so unique.
Not every human gets to live. I think event management, before I got into it, someone said, it's the hardest, most stressful job in the world. And I was like, really? This no way. And man, come like the 2 weeks before or even the week of, it's like, oh, okay, I know what you guys are talking about now. And you're right. I kind of miss that. I think, you know, high level athletes in individual or even team sports, there's a level of like pressure that you experience that you can't really relate to unless, I don't know, I get every profession, I'm sure, has it to some degree, but there's just some that obviously experience it at a higher level. And when you're talking about an event, you're talking about like thousands of people depending on one decision that maybe you make or have to make, and it has to be like now and fast, and then it trickles into hundreds of other people that are helping make that decision come to fruition. So I bet that's definitely something that you miss. I know I do. I mean, I don't,
Yeah.
again, envy like the super crazy hours and no holidays, but being in that like pressure situation, I as a just a human being, like I love that. And so I know that that's part of like
Awesome.
who you are as well. What about I guess
Love
I'm
that.
curious, like during your time there, I know you mentioned some like points of tension, which I think happen in any relationship where there's a lot of stakes involved. I mean, marriage, one, right? Like there's tension in
Total.
that from time to time. Um, but like, what were some of your biggest challenges or struggles, setbacks, whatever, during your time there, or even just in your professional career altogether?
Yeah, it's well, and the best analogy is that, right? When you start to think about like friction, tension, it's more analogous to a marriage than it is like even a friendship, right? People should know that the foundation of love and respect is prevalent through all of that. It's just a tense environment, and so it's just natural. You give somebody 10 hours of sleep in 4 days and a lot of hard decisions to make, and some of them don't work. You're going to create tension, and nobody's ever looking at anything that they do and saying, how do I F this thing up? I mean, we have plenty of things. You know that. I know that. I have plenty I could list, right? So it's um, just a high paced environment. And I think that goes to the bigger question that you asked is just, um, I've never been a part of something managing that many people, which I think I learned a lot in my first year, that it wasn't really my job to manage all those people. It was to help them be in a position to succeed and continue to inspire them through the process. Whereas, year one, I literally probably was closer to death than being alive. I ended up in the hospital for 10 days after the event with an
I
infection in
remember
my
that.
bloodstream. And I just learned, and Dylan knew in the process, and he's like, "Dude, you're gonna kill yourself. Like, what are you doing?" Like, and I'm like, "It's
Mhm.
the only way I kind of knew how to learn was just like get my hands super dirty." And what I learned is, that was my biggest hurdle was just, delegation. It's
Yeah.
not trust because man, I have respect and trust for everybody that gives a minute to that event, especially now. It's just, I've always, been hands-on and, I've wanted to be a part of the solution, and some, want people to know that I'm willing to do what they did, and that's important to me because I am, and it's just not possible sometimes. You know this, like you've been through it. It's like you get in those environments and it gets so big and you got people not sleeping, what putting in 18-hour days, and you're like, damn, like, I want them to know that I'm there with them,
Yeah.
and to get comfortable with that took a bit, really. It's, well, whatever. It's like 1,300 people. It's like if you try to control 1,300 people, you're going to get exactly what I got out of it, which is chaos, stress, lack of leadership, and sick, and maybe, worse.
Yeah.
It's literally, so that was the biggest thing that I needed to learn quickly. And I'm so grateful for it that there was patience from the people that were there before me to help me through it, including yourself, the people that operate, Loud and Live, Nelson and Marco. Um, you know, they allowed me to kind of blaze my own trail into what that role looked like. And let me kind of make a lot of mistakes that I probably didn't need to make because it was probably necessary with how I was wired. So
Yeah.
it just Yeah, that was a big lesson. I now I got, 20 people that we work with on a day-to-day basis at HWPO, and it's like, it's a breath of fresh air.
It's funny. I really like your answers. I think I don't know if you realize I don't know how humbling or humble it is from the the posture that you're taking. I asked you what the biggest challenge was, and it sounded like yourself, right? Like almost kind of like working in this environment that was kind of bigger and faster than maybe you had been used to, and realizing like, okay, what made me successful in my other endeavors isn't necessarily going to make me as successful here. What got me here won't get me there, right? Is I need to learn to let go and delegate a little bit more. And again, it's not even from a lack of trust, it's just how you're wired. And I can share that same sentiment and experience for sure, 100%. And what I learned from that as well, and similar to you, it sounds like, is that like I'm not only not doing my best work and making myself unhealthy physically and maybe mentally and emotionally, but I'm also not really helping my team out because I'm not setting them up if I'm trying to do it for them or not really giving them the autonomy that they need. So sounds like you've grown quite a bit from that experience, and
Totally.
and don't necessarily have that massive amount of, I guess you could say, responsibility from a like people perspective, but at the same time
Yeah.
you do because the app that you guys are using, right? Or let's just not even call it an app. The app is just the tool. It's more than an app, right? It's a training program. It's a community. Is impacting thousands of lives. So in theory,
It's
your
cool.
one decision does impact thousands of lives around the
Totally.
world. So I'm curious now that you've graduated, let's call it, right, from that version of yourself.
Wadapalooza
Wadapalooza.
University.
There's no graduation from Wadapalooza. There's multiple degrees that are infinite. But what I mean, like you've graduated from that version of yourself, right? And now you are where you're at. What do you see is like your next hurdle, your next challenge? You're like, man, I really want to grow in this capacity. It could be personally, professionally. What do you have your eyes set on?
Great question. Just one thing back too is that when you're in, and again, all things you and I would relate heavily on this, especially with Wadapalooza, is that you see the destination, or like a point in the destination. There's no destination with this, right?
Right.
Like, let's clear that up. Like, we're just trying to touch more lives over time, and really bring a lot of joy and a great experience to them. And but the desire to be at a certain point is the plight often, right? And it is here too. It's just, I know what I want this to look like, and we're so aligned on it. It's just there's a lot of time under tension to get there. And that's uncomfortable, and it's like that, you got to learn, you learn through that there, patience is the answer, is just urgent patience, so it's, but that part is been hard to learn with it, just how I'm, wired, and how I grew up, and what I've done in my life, but yeah, that's been a really fun piece of, my personal growth, is to be able to truly not lie on the couch and be like out of my mind anxious about like every micro piece, because I'm thinking about this big destination. It's really just being very present in those moments and helping people be their best. But yeah, that, when you ask like about what do I see next? Um, I'm really excited technically with what we're pursuing, with how we're going about it, things we're doing as a business. But I have learned through my experience there, and then starting other businesses in this space, like being to be audacious, if not borderline delusional, about what you can be and where you want to go, and
Mm,
that's how you get there. And
like that.
I really, it's kind of the drum roll beat to, I think we can really change the way people think about wellness. And you know it's not humble, it's hard to be humble in my expression of it is, it is, we are, but it's just, I think we can change the world in a lot of ways. I really do feel that, because I feel like we have a great sense of community. We have a great, culture and vibe, and we have a great solution, and we just genuinely do want to help people. And I know we're a business, and I learned how to do that, better than ever there. Because that was what success would look like to those that are crunching numbers on the other side. Is like that. It's experience, and I'm really engaged in that with what we're doing. I think that we spread this word around our system a lot, democratize, and it's a real technical business term to say we just want to get in front of more people so that they can experience us and we can help them. And I know that's big box, audacious, even delusional, but quite frankly, we've started, and I can see the path, and I want to do it. Like I want to be as many places as we can, so when somebody wants to think about taking care of themselves, they have access to us. And that to me, and other things, because again, like I said, we're not the only place that people should be looking to do these things. But I think the more people we can help and touch, the more people will be aware that you can actually help yourself, and we want to be a place that people think of in that.
Yeah. That's beautiful, bro. I love how I'm always inspired by having conversations with you and guys, I could say like us, right? That we're like, dude, I'm kind of like, I'm not embarrassed to tell you this, but you may think I'm crazy, right? Like we're gonna change the world with this idea or with this
Totally.
community or what it is. Like, I don't know. People ask me all the time, like, did you think Wadapalooza was gonna get that big? I'm like, I think anything I do is going to get that big, and not because it's me, but just because like if you're not
Totally.
doing it to like be the best, not in comparison to others, but the best version of yourself, like then why are you doing it? Right? It's like if I don't know, and especially in something that you're going to spend a lot of time and energy. And I'm not saying like every email is going to be the best email you've ever written, right? But I'm saying in an
Yeah.
endeavor that you're really like pouring yourself into, and a lot of time, energy, and just thought. So it sounds like too, and I think a lot of people are finding themselves in our space, whether it be a brand like a tier, like any other brand, or even just like training groups, gyms, that they start with CrossFit, they fall in love with the competitiveness of it, and then they use that as like, okay, we need to spread this out to the world. It's not just, let's not just keep it to the, and the CrossFit space is huge, right? Let's not undermine how big it is and how many 15,000 plus affiliates, and those who do it and are not affiliated, let's just call it another 10,000. So it's 25,000 gyms that populate millions of people
Right.
across the world. And we have this where we're like, okay, this is great, but like we need to like spread it to the rest of the world, whether we want to call it CrossFit or not, but we want to impact their lives. So it sounds like that's the mission that you guys are on. It's like we started in the sport and really like just training people to be the best athletes and competitors that they can. And now we're branching out into anyone and everyone should be exercising, should be living a healthier life. Is that right?
Yeah, and it's like the prescription daily is these X's and O's of like, squats and burpees and all that other stuff. But the real mission, health and wellness is, teaching people, to do things hard, and what that benefit is physically and mentally. Um, in creating a lot of awareness around, people getting, out there and helping themselves on a daily basis. It's educational. And the most delusional thing would be to think that you're the only solution for that, right?
Right.
We're all growing a big pie here, and that's not just CrossFit. That's just that's where I think we got to be better as a space. Is we just are so passionate and know the life changing events we've had through experiencing this, that if we could just get everybody to do it, that most people would be like, okay, yeah, there's some secret sauce there with community and in the functional approach. But, in the end, if, somebody wants to run on a daily basis, like I got to be pretty proud of that, right?
Yeah.
And if somebody wants to take a walk every day with their kids, like I got to be proud of that, cuz that's like really taking action on being better, And so, that's like super foundational. But there's, I mean, we know that there's, billions of people in this world that don't even do that, So it's just like finding ways to get people welcomed to what we do. And, there's definitely layers to it. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty fun. I mean, it's like, what better could you be doing? Er- You know, I've been in many different businesses. I was in the car business, I sold insurance, and you can really do a lot of good in those businesses. But those are products that are necessary. There's like tons of history and how people sell them. There's like all it's hard to like be innovative almost in those areas, and it's we're helping people like live longer.
Yeah.
We're helping, and their kid, like my kids, like think about the effect you've had on your family, and I have mine. My wife works out every morning. Didn't before this. I wake up to her every morning on a bike. She has some Peloton equipment. And by the way, like that's a perfect example. My wife's not really a CrossFitter, but she tried it. It wasn't practical for her, but now she thinks about getting her ass out of bed every morning and moving. And my kids are hyper aware of what they put in their mouth, and how stagnant they are, and
Yeah.
they're active. So man, like that stuff to me is, yeah, it's our job and it's what we do, but we got the best job in the world. Like we're actually changing people's lives one by one,
Yeah.
and that's super fun.
I love it, man. I love that there's not necessarily a shift, at least just a bigger a mindset that encompasses more than just the CrossFit space and helping out, the elite athlete, which is maybe how it started a little bit in the beginning, and now it's like, there's so much more room for impact here.
How
Um,
fun is that too, though? I mean, you've been on that side, and um, you've been, a professional athlete and gone to the CrossFit Games. I think you played professional football in Europe, right? Did
right.
you? Yeah, yeah. And you know that, I mean, just another piece of that I'm so grateful for my opportunity to be involved in, and then the successes we've had with that. Man, taking being in a relationship with an athlete, whether it's business or, helping them, coaching them, whatever it is, like the reward of, their success and pride and what they do is so gratifying. It because Matt is like I've been with Matt since the beginning. It's just watching his personal growth and his success. Yeah, he's the best ever. I'd have been as proud of him if it wasn't, as long as like, he felt good about the work he put in, and the results were just kind of what they were. But we have so many now that we care for, which has been really fun for even him. Which he didn't know if coaching was his path, but it's just, mentoring young athletes and helping them become real pros is, man, that's so gratifying. It
Yeah.
just, it's a tangible impact that you have. It's just really cool stuff. I mean, we've got some great young kids we work with now that are so fun. Honestly, I mean, I got to pinch myself. It's real some days.
Yeah. No, I love it, man. I think I look back on your impact on Matt, and at least, I don't know a whole lot about your guys' relationship, but from the interviews that I've listened to, that Matt has been on, and I think I'm sure throughout the entire journey, just your support, your friendship, your love for him, and your mentorship has been, integral. But I always am drawn to like that moment where he was, that he speaks about potentially retiring, after four, and you're like, nah, bro, no one's gonna remember you before. And like, I love that you knew A, what he was capable of, and B, that you were that guy for him that needed to push him. Even think about that, right? Like I think a lot of people don't realize that like even the best of the best need someone in their corner to show them how much more they still can go. And I think
Oh,
that that's really cool that you impacted the sport through one person, but then at the same time you impacted the sport through professionalizing it and getting people paid, right? And in the same token, that helped elevate events, that helps elevate brands, so on and so forth. And so that's leading to a question, right? Is like, you've already had your stamp on the sport. Where would you like to see it go next? Where do you think it can go? Where do you think it should go? I'm curious.
yeah, great question, and seems to be the question of the hour in the space in general. Is a lot of talk around this, internal with CrossFit too. I think they're working really hard to innovate and progress, right? And I think sometimes on the outside it can look clunky to the pundit. It's just there's a process to all these things, and just like I said, I made a lot of really tough wrong decisions at times in anything I've done, and at Wadapalooza, nobody's immune to that. And I do know this is like we all pointed in the north that we want this thing to continue to grow and become more of a global sport, and and elevate its platform. And so we have to think about that, and like what does that look like, and how do we get more athletes? One of my big things right now is like how do we get more of the best athletes in the world on the floor at the same time more often? It's less of a choice now. I'm very pro athlete, want to care for their volume, I want to make sure that they're at their best and they're healthy and there's longevity. But I think there's some longevity in that. It's you're creating more opportunity. There's more stories to tell, longer form.
Right.
So I think that Wadapalooza is a perfect example. Is like we link that into some sort of season system. It always gets people to turn up in different ways, right? Like
Yeah.
we never had a problem with that. But, putting that in a system, with a few other events, including the game season or a couple other events, and saying, hey, this is like worth a lot of points to your overall success.
Yeah.
I think that would be really cool in progress. I think we're at that point now where we've got some really cool things going on in silos that we need to start to link more together,
Yeah.
and that helps. When we say that, it's like, growth is story. It's all about stories, and being able to, like, tell them for 12 months, and people to be more related to them and engage them. It's like, a micro would be like, I'd love to hear more about the athletes. I know a lot about them, you do, but
Yeah.
there are a lot of fans of Pat Vellner and Brent and Katrin and Brooke, but they know a lot. They know a lot about their athletics on the floor. But if you think of other sports, like I know a lot about LeBron off the floor,
Yeah.
and I know a lot about Tom Brady off the floor. Yeah, maybe because I'm engaged, but it's in your face.
Yeah.
There's just constant storytelling and content and character development. And so I'd love to see, Pat's a perfect example. Pat's a chiropractor that still works a job, has
Yeah.
a,
Yeah.
a kid and another one on the way, and he's been a top competitor for 10 years. Like I want to hear, like, what is
Yeah.
makes you incredible, dude? Like I need to hear more about this. So, and we're working on it. Like I think all of us are. I just think what will help all that faster will just be like gluing some of this stuff together and creating, the platform for it to be more consistent and telling a longer form story.
Yeah, the continuity of it all. It's like
Yep.
one one big community, but it's being told on like 800 different channels, and
Yeah,
you know,
totally. I've learned a lot. Like we had some great opportunities to be in front of the NFL, the PGA Tour. I'm so grateful, just to just see how they operate, and I always have to check myself on this. I do a lot of, like, comparisons to other sports. And I think, really what that is that there are people 50 years ahead of us or 100 years ahead of us. We can just draw, commonalities and think about not making mistakes that they made and try to get faster to where they're at today than we are, and there's definitely nuanced differences in all those examples. Like the PGA Tour is owned by the players. That's a massive difference to what we do, right? But there's things that we can take tactically from those platforms and execute. It's like I heard the NFL spoke at an event I was at, the CMO, and they were in trouble in the 90s. People don't realize that. The NFL was like on the down, nobody in the seats, nobody watching, terrible product, and they thought about how to really get the consumer more engaged. And you can talk about fantasy and all this, there's so many things that went into it, but what they did is they really thought about giving more access, opening up content access. People don't know is give all access to over 300 content creators that are mostly YouTubers that have nothing to do with their sport on an annual basis, on field, in locker rooms. And I was like, wow, that's brilliant. There's billions of impressions that are just given to you about your product because you just gave some access. It's just things like that we need to be like really paying attention to, and starting to loosen it up, our grip on some of those things with access. And we need the eyeballs, because we know how incredible it is. It goes back to that prior conversation. We want to help people. We want to get more people in these gyms and training on a daily basis the way we do. The way to do that is to get more people looking at it. And so that's a way to do it.
100%. Yeah, I think it's a blend between having like one entity that kind of puts some continuity to it all, right? And does the key storytelling and unifying of points and things of that nature. And then there's like the access to all of that content to be told through every individual that wants to tell a story that has a following. I think there's a good blend between both of those. That sounds good. I think that spoken to a lot of guys, whether it be on this podcast or off of it, and a lot of us share the same vision. So I'm sure in one way or another, it's all slowly unfolding, and we're somehow playing a small
We'll
role in it all.
we'll
So,
get we'll
very
get there. We'll get there
yeah.
for sure.
So I got one last question I like to always close with in the spirit of celebration. Wadapalooza's coming up. We have a saying at Tier Wadapalooza, right? There's a banner as you exit that says, "Life is short, celebrate hard." And so I guess the question is, what in your life right now are you celebrating that you maybe will show up in January and say, "Man, there's a lot of good in my life, but these are some things right now that I really want to celebrate."
Yeah, it's such a good question, and it's something I'm like really engaged on right now. With the point at which I'm in my life, I'm a little older than most of you out there, even you, Chi, and I've just been really reflective. I don't know. You start like losing friends from high school to illness, and family members that are more, closer to where you where you sit from an age perspective. And I'm really grounded today, and like I got one chance at this thing, and I'm gonna make mistakes on a daily basis for sure. But I got to reground in what's important, which is people and relationships, and that to me is paramount to everything else. Forget about business in that conversation. It's just I'm the richest man in the world from my perspective because I have so many great people around me, and I'm really purposefully looking at how to make sure that they know that, and it starts with my core family, and spreads down to everybody I touch on a day-to-day basis, or even just in meet once because they're a fan. I got a great story that connects to this. It was at Army Navy. It was last weekend, my first time ever going. It was in Boston. We coached the West Point CrossFit team, functional team they call it. They had an Army Navy game, CrossFit. It was honestly, I had one of the better weekends for my soul in my life last weekend. It was just like kids that like are going to change the world. Do I think they're a little naive with the way the world's wired? Sure, but I want them to think that, and because they're doing that for me and you, and they're just it's such an incredible group of people. But I roamed around. We have somebody coming to our team at HWPO that's getting out of the Army. He's a pilot, and he's going through his transition. And he introduced me to a bunch of his teammates that were at the game. And a couple of them took me aside, and they were basically saying like, hey, like, you, Matt, your business story, Matt's career got me through my deployment because it was like the content you guys put out, just really kept me grounded at home with things I love. I love CrossFit, I love Matt. It was just super cool, and I just wanted to tell you that. When I mean, I was like literally blown away. I'm like, yeah, that's piecemeal. And then another person there told me a similar story, and I'm like, damn, like
Wow.
that's just really gratifying for me that I don't, yeah, we want to help people. That's our purpose. But, I never even really thought of it from that angle. It's just like, us doing goofy crap on YouTube, change
Yeah.
somebody's experience overseas. And, yeah, I just like digging in on impact, with people. It's just, relationships are really the only thing from, everything else kind of trickles out of that. And I just am really grateful where I sit today and who I get to sit with. People from the past, people that are in the present with what we do day to day. It's just yeah, it's just when I think of that, like I'm going hard on that the rest of my life. It's just I want people. I'm telling people I love them, and I feel like I've always had that in me, but I'm more present on that every time I'm exiting somebody I love. I want them to know that I love them, and I want to know I'm grateful for them, and that they're a part of my life, and I know that's a privilege, and that's given opportunities to prove through your actions on a daily basis. So I'm just engaged with that right now, and I don't know if that's this temporary position I live in because I've gone through some weird stuff with deaths in my family lately or whatever, but I like where I sit today because just more present in general. I mean, this, like everything we do, especially there, like it's like your phone's out for 3 months straight
Yes.
until 2 in the morning, and it's like, no, I'm putting my phone aside now. I'm really building some boundaries for my family. It's
Good.
just it's where I want to be, and it's what I'm digging in 24 on.
Man. I like this version of math. Yeah, I like all the versions, but I like this. This is good. It's good. It's just good for our soul. Just sound like you have just more peace in your life. And you know, I think you could have dropped the mic. I wrote it down. I'm the richest man in the world because of the relationships that I have, and work every day to show that gratitude towards them. And thank you for sharing that. I think you embody the spirit of Wadapalooza. It was created not to be, to prove the fittest people on earth. It was created as an expression of celebration of gratitude for the things that have made an impact in our life, for our fitness, for our community, and for just the fact that we only got one life. So, man,
Totally.
that's awesome. Can't wait to give you a big hug and
Same.
share some time with you when you come down
I
to
mean,
Miami.
I
Great.
cannot wait to be there. I said this before we went on the air, and it's the best week of the year. And that's even with me not being a part of directly that team. I still feel so connected. And Dylan has this unique ability, and you've experienced it, with your less involvement and now mine in the event day to day. Is he just has this unique way of keeping us connected and feeling like we're a part of it and expressing gratitude. I mean, I'm charged up. I mean, it's always getting better every year, and I'm just pumped to go down and celebrate all their work and everybody on the floor's work and get to spend some time with people like you. It's going to be a great week.
It's going to be awesome. Well, man, thank you so much for your
Thank you.
time here. We look forward to seeing you
I
in the
appreciate it.
Miami Heights. Hopefully, nice, cool weather we have here ready for you. Give your family a hug for me.
Same,
And
bro.
here we go. TYR Palooza. The countdown is on. Thank you guys. Much
Thank
love.
you.
All right.